So here's an introduction to a 2001 VW Beetle 1.8 turbo, and this particular car in Taiwan has been quite popular for its looks. However, it has many underlying problems. Being a German car, the plastics in it, although highly rated by people in the media, are in fact awful, and the plastics typically fail very early on in life and will slowly deteriorate over time. Now, as you can see, this car has been entirely stripped, and this is the car I'm working on right now for a friend of mine. And we have removed most of the interior at this point. There are still a few bits and pieces left to take out, like this piece of plastic here. And the interior on this particular car has a lot of grey in it, and I'll show you those pieces in just a second. But what I want to just show you is the extent at which this interior has to be repaired on this vehicle. Now, we've just had it back from somebody who's already redone the roof lining. The roof lining on these cars drops down. The glue in the roof lining breaks down over time and fails, and what you get is you get this you get all the cloth here sagging right down, and well, it's very uncomfortable to be in, and it's a bit of a hindrance, and it looks very unsightly. So this roof's already been removed, it's been refitted. It has to go back for another roof lining to be put in, because he didn't put it in properly. We can see here it's still a little bit saggy on this side, so that's got to come out again and be sent away. Now, I've already repaired part of the gear lever, the gear lever plastic. There's a plastic shroud here, like a dust shroud. I don't know if you can see that very clearly, it's dark in here, but there's a dust shroud in here that always splits on the VW, so that has to come apart again. That has to be replaced. This grey paint that is very popular on German cars, it has a very nice feel to it when the car is new. You know, it's like a soft touch feel. You find it on the stereos and around the heater surrounds and things. But what happens with it is basically at about the 5-year mark, when the vehicle's relatively new in most cars' terms, but for a German car I would say pretty old already, it starts to just degrade, and it becomes, if I can show you here, you get this black, slimy, sticky substance that it becomes, and you know, it readily just flakes off. Like here in my hands here, you can see it just dropping off, and it's the same with the grey. The grey, I'll show you just some components and just show you what you have to deal with when looking for one of these older cars, which I don't actually suggest that you do. Now, here are a couple of pieces here. So this is the grey that I'm talking about. Now, if you basically, if I just, you know, if I rough some of this grey with my hands here, you'll see the grey just sticking to my fingers. It's basically like glue at this point. And this is why the entire interior has to be removed, and all of this grey soft touch glue, as it has become, has to be removed from the plastics, as well as resurfacing all of the plastics. You can see this one's pretty badly discolored here, not just because it's been on the ground, but it was already in this state in the car. And another purpose of taking all of this out is that virtually all of the plastics on VWs fail. I mean, the plastic clips here, you can see a clip here. I can just pick up any piece here and I can find faults with it. The plastic clips just snap off. They just readily snap. I mean, you don't have to apply much pressure to these when they break. You know, so if you've got kids in the back of the car, they only have to put one foot wrong and you basically just snap a piece. And all of these pieces basically have to be either repaired or just thrown away. I mean, you can see anything in here. Anything's just breaking. Plastic locating clips. Basically every single corner, every single clip that you can find. The glove box on this is more of a puzzle at the moment. It has been repaired extensively. We've had to repair this with super glue, a combination of super glue, cloth. I mean, it's still split basically everywhere. But the reason we've had to repair this one is because a glove box for this car, and this is cost to us, the cost of a glove box to us, and we're in the trade, is 40,000 NT. Yes, that's 40,000 NT. And this is what you're dealing with. I mean, the car, this particular car that my friends bought, I would say it's actually in excellent condition compared to most other Beetles of the same age. And you can see exactly what we're dealing with here. Another piece of interior cloth just dropped right off. But even so, I mean, it looks like everyone's worst nightmare. But in fact, believe it or not, this is in better condition than most cars that you will find on the market today. You can see the body is pretty good on this one, although it has just come back from being resprayed. It just has some minor scratches in the bumpers. The boot, or the trunk, is full of pieces right now that we've had to remove again for that horrible grey gooey substance that basically just coats everything. My hands are just sticky as hell right now because I've just been in and out of this car, just touching pieces just to show you guys. I've spent about 2-3 days in the engine compartment. The engine compartment on these is a nightmare. Let's see if I can get this up with one hand. The catch is a bit sticky. Sorry. Okay, there we go. The engine compartment on these, you can't see very much. And the reason you can't see very much is basically because the car body was designed around this engine, or what I could say is that these two really weren't a match made in heaven. It's not much like the original Beetle. Of course, the engine's in the front on this one. This was an old Golf engine that they decided, and chassis that they decided to build upon for the new model Beetle shape. But because they weren't primarily designed to fit each other, the engine has been crammed into this car, really crammed. I mean, seriously crammed. If you want to find the brake fluid reservoir in here, you're looking straight at it. Of course, you can't see it because it's just crammed down the back of the engine. I mean, you've got to put your hand right down here, and you can just get a glimpse of it. I mean, there's no way I can tell. You know, I'm a trained technician, but looking at it here, I'm going to need an inspection light and probably quite a bit of time, and even then I'm not sure if I can tell even the level of the brake fluid. It's just a nightmare of a car to work on. The problem I had on this particular car is the brake servo unit was okay the day we brought it in, but it failed the next day. And I found that the vacuum pipe had, because that's another piece of plastic, and plastic on VWs just fail, so it just split and leaked air, and of course the engine rough idle because it was running too lean, and then we had no servo brake assistance. So fortunately that happened while we had it at the garage, so we weren't on the highway doing any significant speed. But I had to, you can imagine this, I mean, I had to get right back there to the servo unit, which basically meant stripping a whole ton of stuff out of the engine compartment here just to get to those to that servo pipe. And aside from that, we had a rocker cover gasket leak, oil leak. You can't see it here because the cover's back on top of the engine, but the rocker cover on this is another nightmare to get to. You know, typically on any Japanese car you could expect like a trained technician with the right tools to maybe take 15-20 minutes to replace a rocker cover gasket on most Japanese cars, and I mean that's taking it pretty easily, and that's doing a really good meticulous job of changing it. This particular one is the first time I've changed the rocker cover gasket on this car, and I was being extremely careful because you don't want to put pressure on any kind of plastics in here. I mean, you've got plastic pipes, vacuum pipes, fuel pipes, everything, and you don't want to put any pressure in here because they just readily snap. And so I was being meticulously careful, and that took, to change that rocker cover gasket, it took a crazy amount of time. It took about an hour, maybe a little bit longer. and because of course once it's off you can't see down the back of the engine very easily to clean any remaining broken gasket pieces away. So it's a very difficult job. Probably helps if you've got a mirror, and it certainly doesn't help me because I've got not the biggest hands for a guy, but I've got some long hands. I've got some fairly chunky fingers, so it certainly helps if you've got some tiny little hands to work in this area. Of course, we've still got oil leaks. Oil leaks on these cars are probably considered normal, I would say. It's very rare that I ever find a VW, especially at this age, 2001 now, so it's 12 years old at this time. And to find something like this with no oil leaks, I would say is practically impossible. Unless of course it was owned by someone like me, but to be honest, this thing would drive me nuts if I had to keep this on the road every day. I mean, spending, you know, thousands and thousands on just little tiny pieces. The servo line that I changed, you know, it's no longer than this piece of pipe here that you can see fairly well. I mean, it's a little bit longer than that, but for a fairly simple, straightforward piece of pipe, you know, from VW, cost like trade cost us, you're talking about 2,500 NT. And I mean, there's nothing to it. It's just a piece of plastic. It's just a piece of pipe. So anyway, all I wanted to basically talk to you about today was really, you know, what you should prepare yourself for when you buy yourself a nice looking VW Beetle, you know, new Beetle. If you ask me, I'd rather have a 40, 50-year-old first generation Beetle and work on that. I think it's a lot more pleasurable. I know a lot of my girlfriends love I say girlfriends, I'm married, but I mean friends who are girls. I know they love the shape of the new Beetle, and I agree with them. I think it's a cute looking car, but as I say, you better have deep pockets if you're owning one of these, especially a used one, because they're going to fail readily. And if you want your plastic to stay on your car and not drop off all the time, you're going to have to spend a lot of money and a lot of time, and you're going to have a lot of patience to deal with these things when they do fail. Alright, so that's all for this video. This is my first video introducing some of the work that I do here at Auto Checkers. So hi, I'm Jamie, and this is Auto Checkers. I hope this was useful information for you. Alright, see you next time.